because I don't want to be on it.
Okay.
We only have 2 people that are going to bid the road work, Joe Hurst and Bowman. And we had a meeting this morning and this afternoon. Do we want to have a performance and payment bond and test it? And so the county waives it when it's one of the local contractors everybody knows, because you're not worried about them doing it right.
Waives both the testing and the bond?
It's a $3,000 ad kind of when they did it. So they said, if you want it, fine. If you don't, you can save $3,000.
Save $3,000. They both do good work.
Yeah, they.
I mean, their work's been fine in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
One of them.
They're not going to do bad work.
They're going anywhere,
else.
Right, right.
Not that they would do it anywhere.
Dean, come on.
So,
Okay.
this meeting doesn't require a formal start, so we're starting.
Okay.
Carl's up the bat. He's got the first budget. Carl's budget is pretty simple.
Pretty simple, pretty straightforward.
Go ahead and tell us.
I make approval from everybody.
I mean, the only raise, request for increase in the budget is under the personnel. And that was, I think that was insurance. Isn't that right, Sue? Was the only thing that had gone up?
Yes.
And that was just percentage. Everything else has stayed within budget. The only thing that I have done is maybe moved a couple of accounts around, just because I like if I'm going to buy something, I want it to match that account. I don't want it to kind of fit in an account or to sit in something else. So I moved some things around, like last year's budget in vehicle, oil and gas, we had 1,900. I took that to 900, and then in vehicle maintenance, I took that up to 1,000. So it was the same amount of money. It was just redispersing it between the accounts. The other, in professional services, that was 4,100 there. That is something that was used previously for like GIS, for the comprehensive plan, things like that. I reduced that by $1,000 so that I could put $1,000 in office equipment. And just because my computer is fairly new, it's only a couple of years old. But Bob's computer is pretty old, and so I want to make sure that I have something in there in the event that goes out. So I left the 10,000 in special services just for if it was in there for whatever is needed.
It was there.
It was there previously for downtown renewal, right. But they have not come to me and approached me for anything.
We have.
It's at the board's discretion.
We have on the agenda tonight permission for us to apply for a grant, and that requires a match. It can be a soft match, an in-kind match, but you improve your chances when you put some dollars in it. So when I do the budget for this grant, I thought maybe I would use some of that money. Where it's only a $20,000 grant, we have to come up with $20,000 project. We have to come up with $10,000. They'll pay $10,000, and so if I did some money out of that in order to provide a hard match and the soft in-kind match, this is where it comes from.
Okay.
Yeah. But so far, I mean, I fully intend on coming in under budget this year.
It's basically an emergency fund.
Exactly. So I'm not asking for anything new, just kind of reallocating what I already have.
That's a good job to me.
The building budget the same as what you said. Okay, well, good. So,
So,
while we have time, the city has had the same fee schedule for building permits for a long time.
yeah, and I pulled the ordinances today, let me grab those.
Okay.
In 2001, the fee schedule was adopted, and then that fee schedule remained until 2007, when it was raised slightly. And just to kind of give a brief thing, the fee schedule is mainly based on square footage of the project. In 2001, it had been adopted for residential, 10 cents a square foot of construction. In 2007, that price was raised to 15 cents a square foot. But our fees, you know, the revenue that's coming in for building permits and for inspections, you know, our budget revenue is $12,000 that we bring in. And with with some of the larger projects that we've had over the last couple of years, which I don't have all of those numbers, I was going to run those reports this afternoon, and I didn't pull it.
That's all right.
But the gist is there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of money that's gone out in inspections, in plan review time, and none of that is accounted for. I mean, and we're not recouping any of that, you know, for the time that's spent for inspections, for the time that's spent on plan review, for, you know, just any of the, especially the larger projects.
I've yet to find a building department, you know, that is self-sufficient. I mean, they're not.
Right.
And we're allowed under the statutes to recover costs. And so our fee structure, in consultation with the city attorney, has to be based on some rationale that relates to the cost of the service being provided. Otherwise, it could be viewed as a tax. So you have to, you know, you can either analyze it and come up with an hourly figure or per page, whatever. Or what's reasonable would be to survey the communities in the area to kind of find out where we sit.
Which
Come up with a fee schedule that
we're considerably lower.
in line with those, and he thought if we did that, then that would be a rational basis for doing it without having to.
But not to mention the fact that if, you know, if the building department is paying for more of its own item because of the fees and the projects that are going on, then that's less that we're requesting out of the general fund, which could go to other more important projects for the city.
In your opinion, what would it need to be raised to become
I'm going to have to survey that.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah,
have to.
I didn't want to start down the road without having a sense whether it's something you'd be amenable to.
Well, I think it needs review, absolutely.
I think we ought to do exactly what you said. We need to be comparable to everybody else around us. We don't stand out that, well, because there are people busting
You're
down
actually
doors.
cleaning out the
We
other
are.
section.
I received a phone call from Union because the owner of the care center I guess he's wanting to do another one out there.
Yes.
And he couldn't believe that she told him what his permit fee was going to be, and, you know, for us, it was under $2,000. And she was upwards to 30. So it just couldn't believe that. So she called me saying, you know, hey, what's going on?
Is this true?
Is this true? You know, because he was upset, you know, that he wasn't expecting, you know, that type of a permit fee. And so she sent me their fee schedule. They base theirs on the ICC, their formulas, and you figure out how much of your revenue you want to cover by permit fees. And so, I mean,
Some of them, it gets very
it
complicated.
does, you know, I mean, there's formulas and you've got to figure out what percentage you want to look at, and So there's a lot that goes into it, but, if you guys are okay with me pursuing that, I'd like to, because the projects, they're just, we're losing.
You said the last, so 2007, the last adjustment?
2007, and that was the square footage from 10 cents to 15, and then, that was the highest as far as the square footage, it raised it a nickel per square foot on, and then some of the other items just went up 2 cents a square foot, and some went up 5. So.
Well, the only concern that it kind of brings to mind with me, you say we're losing and stuff, but we are gaining on, anytime somebody builds a new home in the city limits, we are gaining, that and stuff. So there's,
You pick it up on the other end,
well,
to a degree.
right, there's a, and I don't want to deter people from coming into the city
Yeah.
and staying out of the city, or somebody coming in and, more subdivisions out of the city than in the city.
Do you feel like right now we're luring people into the city with the low permit cost?
I don't think that's.
People are making those kinds of investments based on how much
I don't
it
know
is.
that even factors into it.
But I have St. Louis contractors, when they call to come down and do a project, they're like, oh, well, we just need to kind of get an idea of what our permit fee is going to be, so we can figure it in on our bid. And when I give them a rough idea of what they're looking at, they're like, oh, okay, well, we're good then. So it just kind of, so yeah, we're the other direction.
Okay, we'll pursue that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Kenny? Just in time.
Just in time. Beat all the rush hour traffic.
Another easy one, since he's saying, can you give me the same budget you gave me last year? There's no real change.
The only thing I was requesting increase in some rural fire money for education. I got a couple new guys I'd like to try to send to class if I can do it. And then on the mechanical and the fire, we're anticipating some expenses for some tires later on in the fiscal year, and potentially some equipment for the truck that we're going to order. Other than that, the budget's working for me, so
Good deal.
I'm going to keep going with that.
One thing I think we need to, since it's his budget, or talking about his budget, is what are we going to do with, in March, we talked about a replacement plan, and I think we really need to pursue that. And actually, I'd like to see it as a completely separate category that every board every year is going to have to review and decide whether they're going to put any money into it or not. We had that, if you guys remember, some of you want, if you want copies of it, I got it right here, was putting in $20,000 starting off this year from the PIVA lease, and then and continue to do that, and then the $33,000 we're getting on the energy savings once the streetlights were paid off, and in 10 years we'll be able to replace his next truck. And I really think, I think we're going to be back in the same problem we're facing today if we don't do something like that, and it's money that is not, I mean, sure, the PIVA lease is money that we've gotten in the last 2 years, but it's taken $20,000 out of there, and then the next plan was, the next truck was going to come out of part of that, and then when the certificates of participation was paid for in 2023 or 2025. You had some extra money to play with there.
I agree, we gotta come up with a plan, or, it's not only here, it's streets,
It's everything.
yeah.
Who else? Who, amount? Steve, what?
I think that's Aldermen.
So really, the replacement plan, that first chart on that page 2 was and I'd like to see it, because we, obviously, we're not all gonna be here forever. If it was in a fund created like rural fire fund, that a board, not just a line item on his,
Right.
not just a line item, but a completely separate account, that every board every year is gonna have to decide whether, because I know that, from what I gather, there was a resolution passed back in the 90s maybe to try to...
93. When we replaced the last truck the truck back in 1993, we went to the board, and at the time we had proposed a split between rural fire fund and the city, and they all thought it was a great idea, and they passed a resolution that we should do it, but because it was a resolution, it was non-binding, and it never happened.
Even this
It's a
would...
similar situation, except you'd have this budget due every year where you'd have to give it consideration. These kinds of programs, it's like a unified personnel program where you put every employee in a grade with steps and increases for longevity, and they all work great as long as the money's there to fund them. This is a similar kind of situation. You can adopt a schedule, and as long as you've got the revenue to do it, everybody, who's going to say it's a bad idea? But you might end up in tighter times than we have now and not be able to do it. So it's always a discretion of the board,
What do
the
we
adoption
get
of the annual budget.
a year from PIVA on the new or whatever?
Pardon me?
What is our rent or lease amount on for PIVA a year?
$890-something a month.
No.
Or will be. I'm sorry, that's just the lighting payment. It's,
$120,000 a year.
that's actually, we're going to talk about that in closed session.
35.
It's, we're getting right at $10,000 a month now.
So roughly 10,000 a month. Why are we only taking 20 of that for this? I mean, what was the reasoning for only 20?
Well, it just works out. I mean, it works out only to take 20, and then if you took that lighting money, and then again, then in 2025, you take 20 from that capital improvement sales tax generates about $250,000 a year. Take 20 out of it, it just works out. And then you'd have the other, whatever you use on streets. I mean, not take all of Piva's lease, and then in every 10 years, he'll get a new truck. You'd have the other, whatever to use in general revenue to fix. How old is it?
Me? 53. I got maybe one more truck left in there.
That's what I was laughing at. I was going, another truck, he's got one more left. He's got one more left too.
Isn't there some kind of saying, old firefighters never retire or something?
Well, I mean, I guess my only problem with it is the PIVA lease isn't a sure thing. What is that, 5 years?
Yeah, like I say, we've talked to them.
I'd like to commit as much of that to this as we can now, because it might not be there. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but hopefully you'd either end up with another lease, or if you'd end up selling it, then you could really address, hey, what happens to whatever's left in this? Do you set that money aside if you had to, if you sold the building? And
Are we relying on that PIVA money for other things currently? Is it
Just maintenance of
Just
the
go to the
building.
general fund.
just general fund?
Well,
Count to the
it goes
revenue.
into a maintenance fund too for the building, don't it, or just that?
Well, we don't budget anything for it, but sure, it would sure pay for it if that's,
Okay.
and they're responsible for ordinary maintenance. We have responsibility for the structure.
And that's, oh, good. I'm sure he appreciated that. So where's that on here?
it's not on here.
So it's not,
There's nothing on here, that's what we're...
it's not counted, I
I
mean,
think
the
that's
PIVA,
compared to
on
general
the,
funds.
it probably goes in the general fund. It's not gonna show up.
it's just gonna be under,
I told you that a long time
We
ago.
got transportation, so it's just gonna be in general, which we haven't got.
we don't have it.
Out of 120.
Why not dedicate it now? Where you there, it's still there. I don't know.
My thought was it's much more, if we're looking at the priority of streets, of taking as little out of this as you could, to leave the rest of it in general fund to do whatever capital improvements that we could. I mean, this worked mathematically, and, hopefully there'll be somebody there, if it's them or not them, somebody else, or, again, if you sell the building, then you could address you could go out and buy the truck then if you really wanted to, but you'd have a,
But you gotta sell it first.
yeah, but you gotta sell it first, that's true too. But
I would anticipate the next truck being somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 by the time that comes around. Just giving you a rough ballpark of what I think it might be. It could be less, could be more, just top of my head, that's what I would say it'd probably be.
that's kind of what we'd figured here, and the interest, I mean, and again, if you look at the interest savings, if we can, like with this one even, and these ones coming up, if you can pay for them up front versus having to do a lease payment thing and financing, we save a fair amount of money on interest.
I just hate to see that money from Kiva disappearing into the general fund for other things. Not that it's going to be wasted, but, you know, we have really two big needs. You know, one is streets and one is fire trucks.
Fire trucks, yeah.
And I'd like to see as much of that money pushed.
Well,
you
this
know.
would,
Yeah.
this would work, and then you could do, you know, you could do a little more with, obviously do a little more with the streets, and this would, I mean, you got the police department on a pretty good program, and so our water and wastewater, everybody in the cemetery, everything's, with the exception of, this would pretty well set him up, or set the fire department up going forward. The only thing left we've got kind of is streets and parks. Is
Is a problem area.
a problem area, yeah.
Yeah.
City Hall.
Well, yeah.
The wasps.
Yeah.
No, we solved the wasp problem. This is a secure
Yeah, you made
facility.
them go to the courthouse, they're having a problem now. So what you're, by bringing this up, you're wanting to see it on his budget, or is that what?
Yeah, on his
How
budget
would we
or-
set something like this up?
She set up another account, like
Okay,
the rural fire fund account,
okay.
and she put $20,000 in it. And then next year, if you did that $20,000 would carry over and make another contribution to it. So it's taking money that would otherwise go to surplus and putting it in a line item.
And hopefully Sue can invest it at like 10%, and we'll be ahead of the program.
10%. Of course, then we're taking $20,000.
You find 10%, I want to know where they're getting that.
Right.
Look at ways to come up with other.
Well, our budgets, we have
All
more
years.
revenue projected than we are projecting expenditures. So there is a surplus. But the surplus, and we've had this conversation before, that St. Genevieve's kind of emergency fund, our budget surplus reserves is low, kind of relative to the standards that the credit markets look at. So if we go to sell a bond, you know, we're going to pay more in interest rates because we don't have a percentage of the money that the lenders think we should have in reserve. Now, there's no magic formula for that. Some people say you should take the most expensive thing that you'd have to, emergency replacement, you can't do without, and have that much money sitting there. Well, for us, it'd be a water tower. The water tower, Emerald water tower fell down. We couldn't do without it. I mean, we'd have to rebuild it. We couldn't wait for the financing. We'd have to just do it. The other thing is, the way of looking at it is to have so many dollars a period of time to operating funds. Again, there's no magic. You pick it, 6 months, a year, you know, whatever. So you have that in reserve. And then another way of doing it is a percentage of your annual budget. In terms of Standard & Poor's, our reserve fund doesn't meet any standard. And so they put us on a credit. We haven't lost our bond rating. We're still A+, but we're on what's called a watch list. So they're looking to see how we're doing with our reserves over the next years. I mean, they know we're not going to build them up in 1 year. And so $20,000 now isn't going to be in reserve anymore. And that's really the impact, is we're not building our reserve account the way others would like to see it.
But since we've had the FEMA lease, haven't we built some of that?
Well, the PIVA money isn't not being spent. It's just keeping us from eating into our reserves to cover our normal operating expenses.
So what did we do before we had the building and the lease?
You spent down your reserves. When I first got here, every year, those reserves were dropping.
By roughly how much percent or how many dollars?
No, I don't have to, I mean, I hate to kind of pick a figure out of the air. But, you know, I mean, 20,000, 30,000 maybe? You looking back?
But you're saying now it's not, now we're not.
Now we're holding our own, we're right, well, this year, we're gonna build our surplus. Last year, we just held our own.
And then next year, it's anticipated that we would build it more.
That's the hope.
Right.
But, you know, every time you don't spend a dollar, there's a need not being met. I mean, we talk about our roads, well, you have to balance those things. I mean, do we want to build this reserve, or do we want to provide a better level of service to our customers? And if we have to pay another point in interest the next time we borrow, that's just the cost of doing it. So I'm not, this building the reserve thing isn't required of us. It's just policy. You know?
So when is our light fixtures paid off?
It was a 7-year, these light fixtures were a 5-year deal. We're a year into it, so 4 years.
21, 22.
21, that's where the 33?
Yeah, that's what it
Okay.
Well, I like the idea of having a plan.
No, we have
Right.
We don't have one.
$890 a month loan from the Department of Energy for the improved lightings at PIVA, which is built into their lease rate, but you know that'll drop off in 7 years.
No, I was talking about the street lights.
Yeah, well that's.
They've actually saved us more.
We'll pay that off in 7 years.
Those have actually saved us more than you anticipated though, right?
A little bit more, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not having any problems making our lease payment from the savings.
Good.
Or not lease payment, our loan payment.
I like the idea of the plan.
I do too.
I do too.
I like having it set, and it's, you know, in the event of lean years ahead, and this is non-binding.
I mean, we got
If you gotta do
it's
what
like
you
the
gotta
old
do.
expression, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. We got to start with something, you know, and if the bad times come, they come, but at least.
At least forces this group to look at it.
Right. I agree. No, I think it's. So where do we,
Well, she'll create it.
okay.
We'll put $20,000 in it. It'll be in the budget that you end up voting on when we approve the budget.
Okay. Fair enough.
And it'll be designated for that.
It's the only thing to be used for, and it'll just sit there
Okay.
until it's time to spend it.
Okay. That's great.
Well, you
That's what I was,
buy
that's
CD,
what it's.
Well, she'll invest it like she invests
She'll
everything else, yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is,
Not at 10%.
Dave Ramsey says you can get 10%.
who's that?
Dave Ramsey.
And which children do I have to pledge? Child do I have to pledge?
A lot of lottery tickets with that.
Okay, and maybe this is way off the line, I'm not sure. But to me, if we're going to put $20,000 in this, which I think is great, I think we need to do this, this is a real good idea. Aren't we going to have to ask, to keep the surplus that we have coming in, aren't we going to have to ask the department's heads to go back and look at their budget and see what they can cut out? If not, we're going ahead and spending all that money that we, or the money that you said we're going to have surplus.
Well, I
See what I'm
mean,
getting at?
it's just, you could do that if you wanted, you know, but you don't have to do that. And $20,000 isn't gonna, our surplus has been growing, she just informed me, a little bit since 2014. It was kind of going down before that. So it's just a kind of an increment of growth that you're affecting, but you know, it's honestly, with that 20,000, our reserves will still grow this year.
By how much though?
Taking it out, unless you'll have to take the 20,000.
No, I can grow too, you know.
If we're-
1%, but what?
I don't,
Guess
We're
it just
just-
depend on how many other, I mean, when it'll probably get down to streets, it would be maybe 20,000 less that we might end up paying on a street would go into this category instead of spending it on a street or something else.
I'd hate to,
Right.
I know we have a tight budget every year, but I don't know if we do that. I think somebody would have to cut some stuff out of their budget. That's just,
If we're throwing $20,000 into an account for the fire department as a reserve for the truck, that's not considered, I mean, that's not part of our reserves as well, it's just an earmarked reserve, I guess you would say? I mean, is it still considered a reserve?
That's a good
I guess
question.
it could be.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if it hasn't left,
Accounts they look at.
It's reserved, but it's
Right.
earmarked.
but it's earmarked, right?
It's still a reserve, though.
But it's a non-binding earmark, right? I mean,
so,
Yeah, year to year.
we could, the
Budget
board,
amendments, and technically our whole budget's
I don't think we
not
could-
binding.
the board could decide to do whatever they
I don't think
want.
we could make it non-binding, no. If we say we're gonna put that in for our fire truck or fire equipment, we have to keep it at that.
so.
Yeah, but you can't tell future boards
But
what they
any
have
board
to
can
do.
Oh, well, we have to.
I don't think
I don't
you legally
think you
can.
I don't think you could.
Our reserve last year was 412,000
General fund only.
general fund. Oh, yeah, we've got other reserves.
Well, that's what I'm saying, this would still be a reserve, right?
And this year, it'll be 545,000 projected. If we move to 20,000, we're gonna end up at 520,000, but that's still, a 20% increase.
Mark, did you hear Joe's question? Isn't this still considered a reserve?
What?
What we would
The
be
I mean, it's
20,000.
still in our reserves, we just have it earmarked internally as for the
Well-
fire department. It's still in a reserve.
You can say that. I mean,
Yeah, I
But
mean,
it won't be viewed that way when they're looking at our budget, but it's, to them, it's a committed dollar.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
well,
So you can't add them all up.
That's the point I was getting at.
makes sense to me.
Just took me a while to get there.
I guess it's just, is our priority, funding future truck replacements or growing the reserve greater? I mean, that's what we have to decide, what's our priority.
That's why you got elected.
I got elected because nobody else ran.
I think those are the decisions that the voter expect the board to make.
All right.
But it sounds like we're making that decision. Well, I think it's a great idea, I agree with you.
I do too, I mean, you gotta
You
have,
know what, and it's,
I mean, even with this, if we're still growing the reserve at 20%, that's pretty good.
and we have to be mindful too, people, anything I heard on the campaign trail was streets. Y'all hear it day in, day out. Y'all know it, been hearing it for a long time. Streets, streets, streets. So, but
But when your house is on fire, you're not thinking of.
that's exactly what it is if you can't get the fire truck to it because you got a bad street.
right.
I mean, this is one small step in a bunch of them that we gotta take in all
That's right.
departments. I
Yeah,
mean,
that was my point. Gotta at least make a movement in that direction. I think this is a good way to get started.
But my whole point was, we never had that PIVA lease money before.
That's right.
Right.
We have to make
And
use of that.
and according to Martin, we were steadily going backwards, so
Right.
that's a good thing. We gotta just hope that it keeps coming in.
Right. But we're only talking about 20,000 out of the 120,000 lease a year.
Right.
So,
And they've got 5 years. It's a 5-year lease that they're locked into.
Again, we'll have a closed session to discuss some modifications to it, but it currently is a 5-year lease with a five-year option.
Okay.
And they're in their third year.
And then, Kenny, as far as your other replacements go, the other equipment, this would fund the 3 big pieces. Then you use the rural fire fund.
Yeah, we use the rural fire fund for all the other stuff, the little pickups and things like that, we buy out of the rural fire fund. Miscellaneous expenses, big ones like the tires I'm talking about, we're looking at probably close to $3,500 for tandem set of tires.
Sure.
We'll take that out of rural fire fund. That way it's not a big hit on the city.
And we ended up buying the rescue truck out of
Yeah,
that fund, and it was
the
just
rescue
paid off
truck.
last year or year before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was paid off 2 years ago.
I copied that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, good. Thanks, Ken.
This guy's got a lot of agents.
Well, Gary's got some new things in here. So, his biggest, he's got money in here to replace the fence around the yard because it's falling down.
You talking about the city shed?
Yeah, we've done the
Right,
front
you've
with
done the
wood,
front,
and I
right.
want to do the remainder with chain link to slats.
Back.
The back fence, the remainder part of it, I want to do with chain link fence with the slats in it.
We're just looking in
We're gonna
our,
vote
so
that
you
out in
can't
the
put
hardware
slats
store.
in
You can't
it,
put chain link fence up with slats.
aren't we?
It's right here. in
I
the
don't
agenda.
know.
It's right here. Yeah, we're gonna, can't do that. I've got that certain, but that needs some changes.
I don't think that provision's, you may not approve that provision.
We're actually looking at ordinance tonight to read our first reading of it that prohibits slats in a chain link fence.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I will, yeah,
Where's that?
no way. There's several of them.
Well, that's,
They require
So, it's gonna be in there.
It just needs to go.
This, infrastructure improvements?
Probably a building repair and maintenance.
okay, Gary, what else?
use any of the fence.
Other than the side lot, there's two big, high-pressure sodium lights. Used to light that up when it was car dealer. Those are both bad. We use them when we load salt, snow, anytime, nighttime call out. I got a bid from Motorcycles to replace those.
It works.
It's about $2,200. And I got another, in here, I want to build a rack to hang our salt spreaders on.
Well, that's a good idea. You guys are gonna get hurt if they do it the way you're doing.
Safety wise, and it also put them out of the weather, they'll be covered. That's only like $1,500 to build that, so.
Yeah.
We'll have a light on in that lot at night.
So we already have something back there.
Yeah, Gary, you definitely need to get that built for this. Yeah.
That's a safety thing,
Oh,
more
I'll say.
than anything there.
Yeah.
But that was my big three things on building improvement.
Tell these guys how you presently load those spreaders on there.
We have to do it with the backhoe part of the backhoe, and somebody has to get on top and chain them and raise them and swing it, and it's not a real safe practice.
At one point, we had talked about the purchase of a pump instead of leasing a pump.
The big pump down there, I think
Pump
Martin's
for-
Yeah, I've
working
got-
on that.
Down at Second.
I've got bids now on that.
Good, I have a very concerned citizen that contacts me often about that.
It's
so
$12,000. $12,000 is the best price that
I
I
would like
got
to be
for
able
it, so we're
to inform that individual of our
going to
progress.
proceed with it.
Tell that and concerned citizen that this fall, we're gonna be down there in that creek, that's that problem. Needs to be cleaned out, and I got permission from landowners, we're gonna get a team of volunteers and clean that creek out.
Creek behind the buildings?
Yes, that goes all the way down there to the levee, and
The
that's
dry
gonna,
creek.
that's gonna help a bunch.
The dry creek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it gets clogged up with debris, so we're gonna clean it.
It's improved dramatically recently, the past, 4 or 5 months, but
I mean, you got that little ditch I'm talking about, we're
Yeah,
gonna
all
clean
the
the
way.
whole creek, all the way down to that pipe that's down there.
One thing I would just, I would like to see would be if we could do something to the front of the street department's building instead of painted glass windows, just to make it, the fire, with the fire a few years ago, we were able to close up all the windows on the Which was like 5 years side. ago tonight. Was it really?
Just the other day, wasn't it?
And I don't know, I mean, just the painted glass on the back side.
It was 5 years ago?
I think it's 5 tonight.
Holy moly.
It doesn't look good.
No,
It doesn't. It's not.
doesn't present that well.
No, no.
Looks like a car dealership.
Imagine that.
No, it looks like an abandoned car.
Dealership, right?
So are you looking at,
I'm not sure.
are you looking at us doing that, or are we looking at bidding this out to get this done, or? I know there's a lot more
I would defer
talk.
to him. I don't know, and I don't even have a plan as far as what it would even
That's
think it look
something we
like.
could do. I mean, it'd have to be
I don't know
in
if
the
that
fall
would
or the
take
spring.
that plate glass out yourself, though, that's,
I mean, you could just put some
Take
sort
it out
of
in pieces.
facade over the front of it, some kind of material, I don't know what.
And Bob, you take that out in pieces.
little bitty piece.
Oh,
Little
okay.
bitty
It's
pieces.
probably tempered, ain't it?
That's not in here.
Yeah,
We'll do we'll come up with a plan and a cost estimate, and we may have to do a budget amendment when the time comes.
Well, that'd be a capital improvement, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
still a budget amendment, no matter where the money comes from.
Unless you had a budget for it, but,
We can budget for it now, but I don't know what to put in.
yeah, okay, that's true.
Terry, one question in your salaries and stuff. I know we've added some duties, you know, primarily in mowing and stuff. Have we added any help to do that, or are we just taking it from somewhere else?
I'm still hanging on to one summer help. That's all I have right now.
Right. But I mean, you know, in our overall, we've added the cemetery and
Well,
other
but that
places.
gets paid for out of a different budget. There's a cemetery budget.
Cemetery budget.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So what she does is she splits their time based on their week, 2-week time schedule. They mark what they worked on, and so then she just splits the time up.
Yeah,
in the
but
budget.
do you still have enough time to
Time sheet.
patch streets?
Yeah, that's,
If it quit raining.
That was, I guess, kind of my directive there and stuff, is we just can't seem to spend enough time there, I think. And I was worried we were taking hours of labor away from that to mow, because,
You've got the cemetery down now to, in terms of manpower. How much time is it taking?
It takes them a day to do both of them.
One day to do
Yeah.
both of them.
how many people?
3 or 4, depending on who's available
That's a lot.
that day. Yeah,
how many times a month?
once a week.
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't know, think about more labor to help streets, not taken away from the mowing and stuff, but I think we need to look at some way to come up with some money to add a labor there to provide some of the other services.
That'd be great. If I'm a man short now, anyhow.
We figure pay off employees per hour, so like $10
Oh, how much we add to it for benefits and stuff?
If you take it out of the police department, or something, I think
To it?
Usually like 25%.
not sure how that went over.
That's mine.
Yeah, retirement fund.
We did, Bill.
Whatever. So, when are you gonna talk about Luby?
Next,
Oh,
Louis,
I have in here
it's a girl from down Texas.
to enter into a lease like they do with the police cars to purchase a skid steer motor. I've been doing some, when we originally did it, it was based on a Caterpillar, which was $50,000. It would wind up being like $11,000 over 5 years to pay it off. I've been working with a case dealer. The machine alone through CAT was like $50,000. With Case, I can get the machine and 3 attachments to go with it for under $50,000, like $46,000.
also a potential capital expense.
It's a machine that can be utilized in a lot of different ways. One of the big things, I brought some pictures that we had on file of the storm drains out in Point Base that are loaded with brush and trash. We have no way of getting it out of there. With this, I got one thing figured is a grapple bucket where we could go in and pick it up and get, haul it out, make a road in and out with the skid steer. It would be very useful on asphalting, patching. It'd take a lot of the manual part out of it, to scoop it out of the truck and go. It could be used, on snow, if we ever got the situation as we did years ago with having to haul it off from downtown. It's a small piece of equipment, you can get in there and maneuver.
Talking about a track machine or we?
Track, definitely track.
And the water department has a trailer that we can use.
And this could benefit them too, it would be a machine that both departments could use.
I've heard different responses from where you're using them and stuff, of the track over the wheel and stuff. A lot of the dirt people want the tracks, where if you're out on pavement a lot, the wear and tear on the tracks is a little different.
Don't you get
The tracks are...
track guards you can put on?
So, you can drive that on the
they're
street,
not
you're
metal
not
tracks,
gonna,
it's
you're
all,
not gonna
it's
tear
all
anything
rubber
up.
tracks.
I would think you'd be more versatile with the tracks.
Yeah, because, another place it would be used would be the ditches up above the floodgates and after the flood. Instead of having to take the backhoe and scoop, we could actually run the ditch with a track loader.
The track loader's definitely maneuverability in and out of places, more traction.
And I got a set of pallet parts figured in it, because we're back to a safety issue there.
Gary, is this in your budget?
It is in the line item on equipment, it would be a payment out of there.
Here's the 11,000.
Yes. And it's $28,000 line item.
8045?
You don't have that.
You only have 4,200 in there.
Yeah.
No, it's a different one.
4085.
Vehicle equipment.
8045.
And we got
You said 4085. Oh, 80, I thought you said 4085.
No, it's on page 24.
Motor vehicle
page
equipment.
24.
8045, gotcha.
In the past, that line item has purchased the 2 used dump trucks last year, the 28 we purchased, plows for them, plows for the little pickup, and a little salt spreader.
So this is in your budget?
Yes, yep.
And your proposed budget is 30-some thousand less than last year's
Right.
adopted budget?
So you plan is to lease it? Is that what you're saying?
I guess it's more of a loan type.
A lease?
It's a lease,
Lease purchase.
Okay. And then at the end of the lease, do you hang on to it, or do you, okay.
You maintain it.
It's the same thing we do with the police car.
Okay.
Since we're going to, you said the water department can also use this?
Oh, yeah.
Is there any money that can come out of water to help with the payment on this?
Actually, I was gonna hit them up on this pump.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, the pump. Steve had said something that they use the pump more than we do, so the pump, I think that could come out of the water department, because they use it 3 times a year or so. We might use it once, well, no telling this weather.
And as far as, using each other's equipment, that relationship has improved tremendously from the past. It's not an issue anymore either way.
Well, I say if you've got it in your budget, and your budget is smaller than it was last year, thumbs up.
And anything that'll save, make it safer, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
you said, save backs,
Yeah.
if you can use forks.
What are you gonna do for that spreader thing? To be able to take them on and off?
We're gonna set some posts tonight. We have some I-beams already to go across post to post, and a slanted roof in your back end chain, raise your bed chain and just drive out.
Anything in parks? Is it extraordinary?
Not
It's the same as last year.
pretty much the same. I think we added a little bit in vehicle maintenance, or equipment maintenance.
But you're still 2,000 under your last year's
Yeah.
budget, so. I make this statement every year, I haven't made it yet. This one, I can't resist. every department head is diligent about watching their budget and only spending what they have to spend. And at the end of the year, it's a rare occasion that we overspend, maybe on a line item, but we overspend in a whole category. And the risk that represents is when people are looking at budgets, well, if you didn't spend it last year, then you were going to drop it down to what you didn't spend. And that creates kind of an attitude of, oh, I gotta buy everything I can buy in September, and that's unfair. It doesn't serve the citizens. It's not fair I don't want my employees thinking that way. So when we're looking at the budget, it's, let's fight the tendency, and you're not doing it. So and credit to you of thinking, well, just because they didn't spend it last year, now I'm going to be able to reduce it to whatever that level is.
Good job, Gary.
That concludes tonight's budget hearings. And we have 7 minutes to do something else before we next meeting starts.
The road across the highway, the cat.
While we're all